broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Look at that, yes!
Where did all the good music go?
There you go.
This is great.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could travel back in time and save JFK from getting assassinated? Wouldn't that be nice?
You know, it's just easy.
That's right.
Snap the fingers.
There you go. Hey, everybody, welcome to the 11/22/63 After Show right here on AfterBuzz TV. I'm one of your hosts here, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. I am joined, as always, by the handsomest guy in this very room, Michael Clous.
My name is Michael Clous. Follow me on Twitter at Michael Clous TV, on Instagram at TheOnlyMC.
There you go.
Just like that.
Yeah, so follow us on, like us on Facebook. Follow us on, on Twitter. Yeah, check us out on Twitter. There you go. Like us on iTunes, 5 stars, all that kind of great stuff.
Reach out during an episode. We want to hear from you.
Yes. Yeah, drive over to our houses, share your thoughts.
Yeah, bring food.
Bring food, yes.
Or drinks.
Yeah, if you're going to share your opinions, please make sure you have food with them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, where are the Pop-Tarts at, Michael?
Yes. Yeah, Michael.
We got to place a bet. We got to place a bet in order for there to be some Pop-Tarts.
All right, James, what's your bet? Please make it a good one. We need Pop-Tarts in here.
I have to think about it.
All right. Just chime in whenever you have it. So we are continuing our discussion of 11/22/63. This week we'll be dealing with episode 3, Other Voices, Other Rooms.
Initial reaction, what did you think?
It was interesting how they slowed things down and jumped a few things that I was like, oh, I don't know if I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I was really wondering going in, and you started out, and I'm like, okay, this is episode 3, and he's like 3 days in. We have 3 years. What is going to happen? And this season is what happened, or this episode is what happened when he jumps forward a year and a half or 2 years or something like that. And like you said, I don't exactly know what I thought about it. It seemed, on the back end a little more comfortable. But then there was some other things, like he was almost like the first time he was experiencing that, like with race again, not to give too much away, but with race. And it's like, I feel like you would have come across that in the past year and a half and like dealt with it.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, I guess even if you've dealt with it, I mean, I guess, you hopefully, if you still have that same mindset about racism, you're not going to still let anything go by you the whole time.
Absolutely.
So what we start off back there, just November 1st, 1960, just moments after episode 2 ended. So Jake is killed, Frank. He's changed time. Billy's uncovered his secret, though, that he sees a tattered remnants of an old newspaper clipping saying that Kennedy's going to be killed, as well as a sports book with all these gambling sports predictions or sports victories from the future. Wants to know what the deal is with Jake. And
really the only thing, when we look back, he gave away that he's from the future, and that you have to do that. What else are you going to say? I mean, how else would you have that? So it makes sense. You don't want to play that card too early, because that opens up, as we saw here, just a whole other deck of cards that are just now out on the table, and so many questions. And I was really, I was hesitant, and I'm not a big fan of Bill.
It's tough because, and that's sort of the reason why I thought like, wow, we skipped over so much because with that 2-year gap, because I feel like Bill was not the coolest cucumber there.
No.
Yeah.
No, I was really worried about Bill, because he just seemed like someone who could just go off. And being that he's lived in that, small town for most of his life, he's finally out, and that's something we see later, is he's finally out and wants to experience things, wants to do things. And so
I thought that was going to be bad news.
Yeah.
Well, we see him when he takes Jake initially to a hotel room, and he says, all right, if you're really from the future, then go back. He shows him a picture of his sister that's been dead for 12 years. Go back and save my sister.
Yeah. Yep. The other thing, it's like, why can't you go back here? And then, all these things that open up when you don't actually understand. It's like, I mean, James Franco was that same way when he first found out. It's like, I have all these questions, and, he had a night to kind of talk through it with someone who is very senior in leadership. And that's what he's trying to do, I think, to Bill, and tried to do. But
Because I think it's easier to maybe understand the rules if you're on the other side. You're going back in time. You're like, okay, let me go back to 1960? Okay. But if you're already in 1960 and some man comes from the future, says he's traveled through time, then I should think he'd be able to travel anywhere in time, right?
Someone walks in here right now and says that they're from the future. How many questions do you have? You're just going to rattle them off.
Yes. I got a million questions for this guy. And because I can only go to 2016 right here.
Yeah.
Like,
why? What?
Yeah.
Why us?
Yes.
What did we do?
I can't be that important, really. Am I that important? Tell me. Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. You have to come to the 11/22/63 after show to stop us from saying something. What were we going to say in this episode?
So you can't blame Bill for all the questions and obviously being skeptical, but he just didn't seem like a quality guy who's reliable and dependable, maybe.
Well, I mean, I guess what you see in that scene in the hotel room, Jake has a dream where he kind of relives some moments there of killing Frank, also interspliced with a speech from Kennedy, and you see some shots of Frank repeating some of Kennedy's words and stuff. And he wakes up and he just starts attacking Billy, just because he doesn't have all his senses about him. And you see Billy as a sheriff, and you can see all these lash marks on his back.
Yeah.
And you can see that Billy says, like, well, he's used to getting a beating. His dad taught him that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, he's been through some rough situations before.
Yeah, so I mean, I can understand him wanting to do something a little bit bigger than himself, wanting to do anything that's going to get him away from this small town, and willing to, if somebody that just seems that they pretty much have their act together is telling you from the future and they can do this momentous thing, that why not? That's a shot to do something different with your life. Yeah,
and it's also interesting because he's prove to me that you're not in the future. You're from the future, and that's obviously where he says you go back and we'll prevent this or we'll go do this. And he can't because, I mean, James Franco is limited in the scope of what he can do.
Yeah. And it's one thing to say, to prove, I don't know, I guess that's the question. If somebody came up to you and said, prove that you're really from the future, it's tough.
He ditched the cell phone.
Yeah.
Keep the cell phone, James Franco. Keep the cell phone.
That's right. Because otherwise, I mean, you can just say, oh, these teams, you say in my book, they're going to win in a couple years, but that really doesn't show you anything. Anybody can pretend to have
the
that
one
knowledge.
He said in there was, I think, 1962 because everything else got burned.
Yeah. So you could just pretend that you know that, but there's no concrete proof on you at all. Yeah, because I don't think there's anything else. I mean, I don't think he took any of his original ID or anything with him. So I think it was only his cell phone.
Yeah.
So.
And I also realized that when we pick up here, Kennedy is not the president yet.
No, it's Ike. Yeah, because when he says, when I say the president, he says Ike.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't take over. Obviously, the swearing in is always, and it's 61. Just like in this year, it'll be 2017. It's 2016 election, and we think, 1960 is when they're elected, but they don't actually take over until 61, the year after.
Yeah, so Jake convinces Bill to just drive me to Dallas. There's $100 in it for you. Just leave me there, and you just go on your way. So Billy does take him to Dallas, and they walk around, and Jake does kind of lay out right there in Dealey Plaza how everything's supposed to break down. Yep. That was a really cool scene. I mean, well, one, it was just so quiet in there.
Yes, no cars.
No cars, so it seemed really eerie. Even, I mean, I can't imagine, like, back then there would still be a little bit of traffic in there. Because they're walking right into the middle of the street.
And for James Franco, I'm sure it's like when you visit anything of something that's already happened. Because for him, I mean, I'm sure he's playing his mind like, this has happened. This will happen. So it's like, if we went back into the 90s, or even like the year, 99 or 2000, and we went to the Trade Center towers, I'm sure we would just reflect on it differently and look at it and be, wow, this is, you take some time. And it's a somber, even though it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. For you, it is still a somber moment.
Exactly. For you, it's still the past.
Yeah. And so he's ready to pay Bill his $100, and Bill says, no, can I stay here with you?
What would you say? Are you a person that goes it alone, like for a group project, or do you like help?
Man, it's like, I feel like I want help from the right person, but man, I don't know if Bill is the right person for this. I mean, it's a pretty momentous task, and so I guess a little help would be good, but man, he just doesn't seem like the guy I want having my back on this whole time.
James Franco specifically chosen. Bill ends up just in the right spot.
Yes. And I mean, as Chris Cooper was saying in the first episode, you don't want to make attachments. And because it never works out well. So
this was the episode of attachments.
Yeah, you can see those attachments start. But in a way, I mean, how can you not form any sort of attachments if you're stuck in the past for at least 2 to 3 years before you can do anything? I mean, you can't be a recluse totally.
Yeah, and that's what he says is you get to that point where he's like, why don't we just win a bunch of money? And when they get down to Dallas, and he's like, oh, we'll just bet and we'll just win a bunch of money. He said, I have to get a job.
Yes.
Because you can't just be, that's almost more suspicious if you don't do anything and you're literally just living off these gambling bets.
Yes. And
that's even more, suspicious.
And it's one thing, like, if you're doing it up in Maine, but you're heading to Dallas, so you're not coming back around. But if you're kind of trying to set up roots around that area, there's only so many places that you could go. Maybe try to pull it once, maybe twice before you're like, oh, everybody's on the lookout for me. This isn't a good idea.
So what job does he get? Well, what are the odds?
Oh, he falls back on what he knows best, being a school teacher. Yes. So he goes in for the interview there, and they ask him about what his feelings are about Catcher in the Rye. Should this be taught in our schools?
It's interesting to see the comparison of schools back then and schools today, and I mean just life in general, stuff like that.
Yes. And James Franco just says, hey, it's we're a great nation. I think we were able to be open and accepting of all things. So I feel like it really he hits the real right spot, real answer there for the principal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he ends up meeting the principal's secretary, or at least the school assistant there, Miss Mimi.
Miss Mimi.
Yeah,
who plays a pretty significant role in just the barrier, breakthrough of what the 60s are, and you're able to see, and that's the show. You're learning about history as much as you're enjoying just the plot line, as you're seeing this history. And I think that was probably important thing that they wanted to show in is the boundaries and stuff and how our country used to be.
Yeah, I mean, especially for that scene there in the school where he says, Miss Mimi, do you want a cup of coffee? And everybody just stops, and they're all looking at him. And he's like, what? What's the big idea? What's the big deal? What's the big deal?
Which I didn't even realize. I mean, it's something small like that. He offered to get coffee, and it was like, oh, what? Like, you're affiliating it all, which is he had talked to her earlier. So what's the difference between talking and getting a cup of coffee?
Yeah, but I guess it's in that context where you're surrounded by all these other people that all have their opinions of it. And it's one thing for, a woman like Miss Mimi, an African-American, to be working in the school in that sort of position, but still only allowed so much latitude in where she can be in society at that point. So even just being asked if somebody can get her a cup of coffee, that's like also, you've crossed the line there. Yeah. We'll have her be here at this desk in the school, but that's as far as it'll go. Yeah,
and especially Sorry
to cut you off, but keep in mind back then, like, women did everything for men. So for a man to offer to do something for a woman, it was probably like taken back, like, wait a minute, she's supposed to get you coffee.
Yeah,
that's true. It's not just racial.
There you go, James. Filling us in there on the '60s knowledge. Look at that, James.
Well done.
But then we just see that all of a sudden it does an interesting choice. It just jumps to 1962. We skip those 2 years.
What do you think of the banners? Did you notice that?
Oh,
as he's walking down the hall, the banners change years. Go from 60 to 61 to 62, and it's an interesting transition. It's quick. Mm-hmm. I mean, it takes like 10 seconds to jump a year and a half.
Yeah, and do you like the time jump right there? Do you want to see? Because my issue with the time jump was, like, Billy was such kind of a loose cannon right there that I was like, this is not going to be that easy to be able to get him to blend in or anything like that. Especially when they do the thing where it's like after they celebrate, they want to go out. I don't want to celebrate here in Jody. I want to go to a big city.
Which they introduce the character of Jack Ruby.
Yes. Which that for me seemed really interesting because with time pushing back, I mean, certainly Jack Ruby comes more into it, at least, significantly historically after the assassination. But still, that seems so closely tied to the events of the assassination that I thought time would kind of push back against such a meeting happening. But it happened so casually. No incident whatsoever.
But yeah, the whole exchange, it was almost cringeworthy. You were like, shut up. Bill, just shut up.
Yes. But I guess you have to... I guess you don't have to realize so much because if you're looking at it from Jack Ruby's perspective, it's this drunk kid who's probably just liquored up. He's saying anything. Yeah. How much can I believe? Whatever he's saying, how much can I really believe?
Yeah.
But still, if you're Jake though, you're like, hey, I don't want anybody saying anything about time travel. Yep. No.
Yeah. You don't want to draw any red flags.
Yeah.
Put those up because you never know how much digging they'll do.
Yeah, but it is interesting what time will push back and against and not in terms of how close he can get to the events around the Kennedy assassination. So this one really surprised me. But yeah, then we jumped to 62, and so that was the one thing after seeing like the 2-year gap, when I see scenes like that where Billy just kind of starts blabbing his mouth, gets drunk, gets liquored up. To jump 2 years, I can't imagine it was really easy. I'm sure Billy must have screwed up many times between then and 62.
And it doesn't seem like he's changed a whole lot in 62. I mean, he seems like he's still, a little bit of a wild cannon. You don't exactly know. He's matured a little bit, but still, once again, just not someone I'd want to have on my team.
No.
For such an important task.
But we do find somebody that Jake might want on his team now. He does meet Miss Dunhill, who he happened to meet in the very first episode.
Yeah.
Back there in Dealey Plaza, there by the book depository, when they had a little meet cute. She left the book behind From Here to Eternity. And
she forgot. I appreciate that she actually forgot about him. Yes. And then it was like remembered. It gives a little more of a spark than like, oh, I've been thinking about you, and a little too much. If it was like, oh, I remember that. No, I was thinking about you and stuff. So I'm actually glad that she forgot.
Yeah, and then but you do find out the one thing she doesn't really want blabbed about is that she was married before. And at first I thought it was going to be something a little bit more, I don't want to say sinister, but more meaningful than just being a question of the times. That in the 60s, you really don't want to be seen as a divorcee at all. But yeah, so she's really hush-hush, like, no, wasn't married, wasn't married.
Yeah, what are you talking about, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying. So it took him a little while to get up on the, pick up on the update. He was like, no, your husband. Remember the guy that let you into the car as I watched you really longingly from across the way?
After we had that special moment, I wanted to do something, and then I was like, oh, rejected.
But then what they found out is it almost seems like Miss Mimi and the principal are trying to kind of set them up as well to be chaperones at this dance. It's almost like, hey, yeah, these two are two young, attractive people. Why don't we see if we can set them up?
People in the 60s, people got, jobs and got married right away. And so something like that, oh, why shouldn't these two people be together?
Yeah. They're single. They both seem really nice.
That's time. That's time pushing. That's time wanting its way.
That's interesting. Time. What time will want to push together, and what time will keep you away from.
And so, like, trying to plan out time in that way is not pushing back, as in like trying to stop you. It's pushing you, like trying to control you, maybe. Yeah,
I'm gonna keep putting you in the orbit of this one woman because I feel like time feels like you should be with this person.
Maybe later, and maybe it could happen later that he's forced to make a choice between her or doing Kennedy. Or, you get attached to someone like that. That's true. That could be a problem.
Yeah. Do you do what's best for yourself, or do you do what's best for the entire world? Which seems easy to do. Like, I'll do what's best for the world. But in that moment, when the chips are down, I think it's really tough to make that kind of call.
Yeah.
But so that we also find out in their time that he and Billy are going to start setting up camp in Fort Worth, where Oswald lived for 6 months. So they're going to set up. They find this apartment building. And they found an apartment right across the street from where Oswald lived, and it just seems like a really terrible part of town. Terrible part.
No, not good at all. And it says a lot about, as we learn more about Lee Harvey Oswald, is him living in a place like that, and when he comes back, you're seeing and learning a lot more about him.
Yeah, it's a different, interesting living situation that he's got. But after they set up that place, then we do have Jake has a run-in with Miss Mimi at a gas station. We have another situation where how people of African American descent were treated back in the 60s.
Yeah, and that's one of those things again where I was like, you'd think you would almost be used to it. And maybe he's just continuing to fight the racial segregation in that, continue every time that he sees something like that, he fights for it. And maybe she's had a, more of a bond there with Mimi. And so, because I was like, I'm shocked that he's like really distraught about this. Not that he shouldn't be distraught, not that it's completely not a terrible thing, but I was like, it almost seems like it's over the top because you've been here for 2 years and you think you would know how to handle it differently. You've handled it so many times that you don't get like physically angry. You handle it a different way.
Yeah, I guess I'm of two minds of that. One is all right, you've seen it so much, you're used to it, so you have your kind of own way of like, sweet talking your way out of the situation, or you're just fed up. Like, come on, how many times do I have to keep doing this? You guys are just dumb idiots. Get it together.
Yeah.
But then he goes back to pick up Billy back in Fort Worth, and he's already getting in a fight there with the guy who lives underneath him.
Once again, Billy, the hothead of lay low. Lay low.
And he can't. He's just ready to start swinging.
But what is he doing, by the way? I'm surprised that in all of this that they haven't really opened up about what he's doing.
Yeah, I thought, was he going to get a job? Because he does say, like, no, we got to get you a job, too. But we never see what that is or if it goes anywhere or has anything of importance.
So maybe he's just like obviously they get all the recording stuff, and he's doing, a lot of research. Maybe he's just like the watch guy?
I would guess so, because I guess he couldn't have another job and then be able to sit there and do all that the whole time.
Yeah, I was like, what is he doing with his life?
I know. You basically just given up your life just to follow that. You don't have any idea if this is really true that this guy's from the future.
Something else that I was thinking about is really when where did I write this? Oh, is that, I mean, for Jake, he knows that this is like 3 years. I think it's a bigger commitment too for Billy to offer, because like for Jake, he knows that whatever this 3 years, he's going to go back and it's going to be 3 years. It's gone. It doesn't really mean anything. It takes 2 minutes.
Yeah.
For Bill, I mean, this is like an actual commitment of 3 years of his life. He doesn't know that, he can't go back in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, these are 3 in real-time years that you're never getting back, Billy. So
yeah,
be certain about what you're committing yourself to, because I'd hate for this to turn bad on you. Like, what did I do? What was going on?
But this is where we start to learn more about Lee Harvey Oswald, which I appreciate. Love it.
Now, it was nice. We get to see a little callback to the moment where we see Chris Cooper's character watching Oswald come off the plane, and now we see Jake back in that same area watching this all happening where Oswald comes back. But we get to see a little bit more of the scene this time because we see him meet his mother, played by Cherry Jones.
Absolutely. And he says, where are the television cameras? Where's the journalists or whatever? And it says, and you, especially in that like 10 minutes there and afterwards, and even to the end of the episode, you start to learn about his personality and his anger and like why maybe he would do something like that. And he says, well, I'm the first U.S. Marine ever to defect. And, he seems to have that me persona, and wants people to pay attention to him and wants kind of his own way to an extent.
Yeah, and it seems interesting where you see moments like that. You can see like, all right, I could see where maybe like that anger to act on something would come from. But then also part of me is like, but you're just like this one small guy. Like, how could you pull this all off by yourself?
He's a really small guy.
Yeah. Just really wiry.
Stature too.
Yeah, just skin and bones. Just I'm just like, who are you? And you're coming back to just like this, just like Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth. You seem like you're just pretty much like just anybody could have done this. But yeah, it's interesting to see the two sides of that. But then we see to be able to keep it track on this is that they know that they've got to bug Oswald's place, which I thought was interesting to see, like 60 surveillance coming into play there.
And realizing just now is that it actually almost makes sense that they would skip ahead here because it's time that there's not really anything happening between people meeting, the general, between Oswald. And that there wasn't a lot happening in that year and a half. So looking at it literally just now, thinking this, that there probably wouldn't have been a lot happening. And so you needed to skip to the point where you actually now have interactions, where 62 is when Lee Harvey Oswald comes back. Yeah. Starts to have those interactions. So if you're going to skip a time, I guess that was the time to skip.
True, because I guess the only thing you'd see on that time is you'd be dwelling on more like Billy being a screw-up or something like that, maybe trying to throw things off. Then how often do you want to see that? You'd rather get right
another
to
night, another stuff. Bill just going off on a tangent.
Exactly. And my brother, he's going to save everybody. He's on the future.
This could have been episode 3, The Adventures of Billy. Yeah.
But then we meet the other great guy, Sarge, who's got all the surveillance equipment there.
Yeah.
All that voice-activated surveillance equipment. And he says, hey, I'm going to this rally. General David Walker is going to be speaking there. If you guys want to come, I could introduce you to him. Oh, yeah, we'll keep that in mind. Sure.
Yeah.
But he thinks, Sarge thinks that this is all just for Jake to be snooping on his wife.
He's using that wife card.
Yes.
Constantly.
Which I think is easy. Because at least that way you're not really building up too many lies. You're able just to speak as true to yourself as possible, with only the exception of maybe changing your name.
And being, obviously, with what we saw from, Sadie Dunhill, is that people don't like, if he's trying to make it seem like, he's the good guy and, with that cheating wife or whatever in the divorcee, is that he can get people on his side a little bit. They're more understanding and caring.
Yes.
So if you can use that, then it's like, oh, yeah, I'll help you out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll do things for you and try to manipulate people that way.
Yeah, because I think it's a really logical thing for Sarge to say, like, all right, you want to snoop on your wife to make sure that she's not trying to screw you over on this divorce? Yeah, absolutely. Sure,
yeah. Oh, yeah, I can rally behind you on that one.
Yeah. You're trying to listen to this this military guy that just came back from Russia? You want to listen on him? You weird? Okay, you're weird.
Side note, the actor, I forget his name, who's the surveillance guy. Obviously, he's just there for a little bit. I was on set with him the other day. Really nice guy.
Oh, very cool.
Really nice. Just very down to earth. Just very chill.
Did you try to slip him your information and say, hey, come on in our AfterBuzz show?
I did not. I'm messing up with this. That's 0 for 2.
That is. Thank you, James. Yes.
You know what? I'm done with you. You can take over the show. I've failed too many times.
Come on, Michael.
This.
It's like that was time pushing you towards getting us a guest on one of these shows.
That's right. The universe was saying that it was my time.
Yes.
And I messed up.
Fine. But one thing that Jake does not do is mess up on is he gets to go to the dance and he hangs out with Sadie Dunhill for a little while. See,
drinking too.
Yep, checking the guy. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I mean, I never had to worry about anybody spiking the punch growing up like that. That just seems like so much of like a 50s or 60s, even 70s type thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, like, going to school. Like, I never had to worry about anything like that. So it's interesting. Like, but you always know watching the movies and TV shows. Everybody's like, who's spiking the punch? Who's spiking the punch? But then they have to confiscate the punch.
Yeah.
They gotta see what's in there.
I mean, you got to test it out.
Yes.
So they really, I'll get your thoughts on this. They really advanced their relationship quickly.
Yes.
In this episode, from nothing at the beginning, and even like midway through the episode, there's nothing, and then from the midway point to the end there, where they even have that kiss, they're really rushing it.
That, I mean, and I guess I guess she does have that line where she says, "Hey, we know there's no real sense in waiting." It's like, all right. I get you there. And as you were saying earlier, it's like back in the 60s, things were a little bit more on an accelerated pace in terms of courtship and marriage. But, and I guess when they first met, reunited or reconnected back at the school at the beginning, certainly at least from Jake's, he certainly had, Sadie Dunhill caught his eye back in the 60s. So, yeah. So seeing her again is like, whoa, okay, yeah, I remember you. So you don't know exactly how much she reciprocated that idea, but certainly as the episode goes along, you certainly know how she feels.
She certainly reciprocated.
Yes. So they have a little moment there. And
do you like a girl making the first move like that? By the way,
absolutely. Yes, to be able to know that, like, all right, yeah, I know exactly. Yes, because it's so hard to tell, and I'm conservative, so I will err on the side of caution. Like, all right, so yeah, they're probably not into me. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to lay back. So I'll be reluctant. But if they were like, no, this is what I want. I'm interested in you. Let's do this. It's a nice
role reversal sometimes.
Yes. It's like, all right, thank you. Because I'm terrible at reading the signals. I cannot read any of the signals. I'm the worst at that. You?
Any guy is terrible at reading the signals. I mean, that's what it is. But no, yeah, I'm the same way. Girl wants to make a first move. Yeah, sometimes it's nice.
James?
I'm engaged.
Did you make the first move? Did you make the first move, or did she?
Yeah.
I believe I made the first move.
All right.
Did she propose to you, or did you propose to her?
Who got down on one knee?
I got down on one knee.
All right. Okay, look at that.
That's too far for me. I wouldn't want to get proposed to.
No.
I'm gonna be honest. Maybe it's just me.
You're like, oh, well, no. Please, let me do it, please.
Future wife, if you're listening, I will be doing the proposing.
All right, there you go. Michael's already he's called his shot, just like Babe Ruth. He just pointed out, all right, that's
right.
It. I'm doing that.
Oh man!
And then they go out, and Jake and Sadie have a nice little dance on the dance floor. They really get into it.
Dancing is the way to a woman's heart.
Yeah, I mean,
fact.
I mean, as you said, like my ex-wife guy made me take these dance lessons. I don't know. Is that the thing that you really want to be like, saying at that moment? Oh, my ex-wife taught me how to do this. I don't know if that's necessarily.
I think he can get away with it because she has an ex-husband.
Yeah.
Otherwise, true. Yeah, he really is saying that a lot. Now that you point that out, he's continuing to bring that up.
But then after they have this great dance, and you can see there's obviously this connection between the two of them, he looks at the time and realizes, it's almost 10 o'clock. I got to get back because we're supposed to sweep into Oswald's place and plant all the bugs.
Yeah.
So he leaves Sadie just high and dry. Like, I'll be back in an hour or two tops.
Yeah.
Sadie is not thrilled by this.
No, the next day does not go well. But they have some problems that night. History, again, pushing back.
Yeah, although this seemed like a really subtle kind of pushback there.
Yeah.
Because after they plant the bugs, Oswald and his wife do show up a little earlier than expected. And so they, Billy and Jake, hide up in the crawl space of the attic of the building. And as they're making their way out to an exit, Billy runs into spider webs. Which,
Yeah.
I don't know, because that seemed like when they're saying time's pushing back, I'm like, it doesn't seem that crazy.
Maybe what I was thinking was a pushing back when Lee Harvey came back.
Yeah,
were they expecting him to come back? Because I thought they said, "Oh, are you sure he's not going to be there?" Because they thought he was going to be gone. So maybe it's him coming back on them and them having to react and do something.
Yeah,
could have been a way of pushing back, I thought.
Yeah, but they're able to get out of there. But it does light Lee Harvey up though. He's kind of ranting and raving.
Angry.
Yes.
And you're looking at this and because everyone in our generation, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about what happened or what could have happened with the JFK shooting, and everyone, for the most part, the consensus is that it was Lee Harvey Oswald, and that hypothesis theories is that maybe he did have other people helping him, and that's kind of something we're seeing. But we're really seeing Lee Harvey as like the bad guy.
Yes.
We can definitely see him as the bad guy with how he's reacting, how angry he's getting.
Yeah, and I think it's a tough thing with these JFK assassination type movies and the conspiracies and stuff. And I'm fine if whatever answer you want to give, but I love a story that will stick to an answer. It doesn't try to leave it ambiguous at the end, like where it could still be either or. Like it's like, and I don't care if you are correct with what really happened with history. You could pick, it was a bunch of aliens came down and they assisted Lee Harvey Oswald. But if that's a story you choose, then tell that as well as you possibly can. And that's great. I'll just enjoy it for the story itself. I don't have to think about like, oh, is this historically accurate? I'm not sure.
Have you done a bunch of research looked up?
I did read a few books, especially when the JFK movie came out that Oliver Stone did. And that is a point in time where I really got sucked into the JFK conspiracy.
Do you think it was Lee Harvey?
Yeah, man, it just seems. It seems so big that a man with that single bolt action rifle to sit up there on the in the book depository to get off those shots that fast and that accurately. It just seems so unlikely. But I mean,
are you one of the people that do you feel like there needs to be something, like if it's not that, you want to know what else it is, otherwise you rely that it probably is that until something else comes out that could prove you differently? Do you believe it?
Oh, that it's a conspiracy, or that it's just Lee Harvey?
Well, looking at it, sometimes people are like, oh, I just know it's not that. I don't know what else it is, but I know it's not that. Or there's the people who are like, I'm a little cautious, but until something else comes out, this is the best option.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like I'm open to the idea of like, oh, there could be a conspiracy, but then there's also like, I need some proof. So it's like, it's terrible. It's like, sure, I'm willing to buy this conspiracy as long as you prove it to me. Then I'm in. So I can't
show me something.
I just can't go full nut and go like, oh yeah, this is exactly how it was, and I have no proof to back it up, but I believe it wholeheartedly.
Is anyone else out there watching? Reach out to us if you have a conspiracy theory about what happened.
Oh, yes.
We'd love to hear. I love conspiracy theories.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I don't necessarily believe them, but I love hearing about them, and it's interesting to think about what could happen. So if you have any conspiracy theories, reach out to us. It could be about anything. Yeah.
If it's JFK related here, we'll read them on the air as we're doing the next episode, 11/22/63. Yeah. See what you folks think really happened that day in Dealey Plaza.
So and then they get out. You see some of his anger, but then the technology works, which the technology is definitely 1960s technology for recording.
Yes. Looks sweet. And so as that starts working, though, we see what happens the next day for Jake when he has to go and see Sadie at school. And he does apologize for leaving her high and dry. And as Miss Mimi said, I did like that. It's like apologies are like dandelions. They're nice, but there's not that much substance to them.
Yep.
Yeah, so he knows he's in the doghouse. But then we go to that sweet montage of just lots of just listening and listening and listening and listening.
Yeah. Big old tapes, man.
Yeah.
Whew, really makes you appreciate. If this episode does one thing, it makes you appreciate the technology of today.
And I do like that Billy starts really feeling for Marina. It's like, that dress is really nice. I don't know why he was so hard on her. Why is he so hard on her about this dress? And so they've been listening for, I don't know, it seems like probably weeks, I guess, that they've been listening to this.
It seems like it's a while.
With nothing happening. And then all of a sudden one night, who shows up at the door but George? He shows up in the door. And so they think, oh my gosh, this is our chance to find out if it was his idea for Lee Harvey to do this, or was it Lee's idea? They can get the idea, maybe this is the inception point there. But then I guess maybe it's time pushing back, because the majority of the conversation happens in Russian, which I don't know if it's just time pushing back.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say that's time pushing back. I think that's more just like coincidence.
Yes. Like,
it's a little suspicious, I would say.
Yeah, why are you speaking? I mean, I guess if he loves Russia so much, I guess that he's just gonna, and he's talking to somebody that is also from Russia.
Yeah, you don't get the opportunity to use that very often. I had a friend when I lived in West Virginia, Shane, who was like fluent in Spanish, and he loved going to Mexican restaurants because he was actually able to talk with people in Spanish. I remember we'd always just go and hang out and be like, oh, where you want to go? Let's go to a Mexican restaurant. Of course, let's go to a Mexican restaurant.
Sure. All right.
You can order in Spanish and talk about your day. Okay. You know what? We'll get you fixed.
Okay. Great. Yeah, we get it. You're bilingual. I got it. Cool. All right. Nice.
Yeah. Mi amo Miguel. Yeah. Bien. Yo soy bien. There we go.
Churros y chocolate. That'd be the only thing I could be able to say there.
Dos tacos pollo.
So we see that speaking Russian all the time, and Jake thinks like, oh my gosh, maybe back in the library at school there's a Russian to English dictionary. I'll go back and grab that. And I thought that was interesting because I thought something else was going to happen, but all of a sudden it just cuts to him coming back, and we see Billy laid out on the floor and all the recording equipment gone.
Yeah, that is time pushing back.
Yes. We find out that Raphael, the guy from downstairs, basically just came up, pushed his way in because he thought that Billy and Jake were homosexuals living up this, didn't like that, and pushed his way in and took all the equipment. But I do like the next thing. They wasted no time where Jake says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to act like I'm an FBI agent and just come busting in.
I feel like that's a little risky.
But I love it. It was so authoritative.
Very authoritative.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you want me to go get my gun?
Yes. I thought that was awesome. Like, all right, very cool. And he really wants to start laying into him, but then Billy points out, no, his little daughter's here in the room, so maybe let's not do this. But you see all the recording, the tapes just unspooled everywhere.
Spun out. It was one of the worst things about cassettes. You ever have that where it...
Oh, yes. And you get it like the pencil.
Yeah, you're trying to wind it. All these memories.
Yeah, so I feel like, I don't know if they have to start all over again. Really, it's just that one night they seem to have lost because everything else up leading him to that is, there was really nothing there.
No. Yeah, I'm sure it's just really disappointing because that was the breakthrough almost.
Yes.
There was finally something. And we're so close. All we got to do is translate it.
Yeah.
And then now it's
just lost amongst all this unspooled pieces of tape.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the rough part.
So I feel like you finally had a breakthrough.
Yeah. But then he can't do so well there in that situation, but he does try to fix something by going back to the school and really taking a moment to apologize to Sadie.
And then they have their own moments.
Man,
hey-o.
Sadie, man, she put the pedal to the metal on that whole relationship right there. That was amazing to me.
I keep thinking back to when they first met and she left that bag. Did she do it on purpose? I continually think back to that, especially now that we see her make that move of was that I'm sorry, I just forget things.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. And also the fact that she mentions that I have cousins. I was in Lisbon, Maine. I have cousins there. And he's like, oh, that's where I'm from, too.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yes.
Just missed you.
Yeah, so interesting. I'd be curious to see. He must know of probably the family that she's related to in Lisbon, I would think, or maybe have heard of them if he's
probably
his whole life.
Yeah. Last name, especially in a small town like that, last names are...
Yeah.
That's all there is.
So, it may not be Dunhill, maybe some other name. So, I'd be curious to see if it does have any ties to anybody that we've seen previously in present day 2016.
That makes me wonder if there's more than one time traveler.
Ooh. Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true because, we do have at least that hobo guy that's shown up a few times. What's his deal? He seems to be at least know that...
He was not in this episode, though, surprisingly.
Yeah. He does know that there's time travelers or some sort because he's able to show up all these different random places.
That's true.
Good call, James.
Where's the breakthrough music? Well, you can't say that and not get... There we go. Perfect.
And then...
I'm going to be thinking about that literally for the next week, 2 weeks. Just thank you. That's going to be up here.
Yeah, that's going to... all right. Because I feel like, that always works cool if you have somebody else traveling around trying to...
Yep.
Well, are they trying to fix time as well? Are they trying to keep time on track the way it's really supposed to unroll?
Yeah.
It's almost like Guys Deep Cut, the Quantum Leap episode where you've got the Leaper and the Evil Leaper. There you go. Where there was somebody that was working at cross purposes to Sam Beckett.
Yep. Trying
to put wrong what he made right. There you go, guys. Put on my Quantum Leap nerd glasses there for a second. All right. This is that Quantum Leap recap. This is 11/22/63. All right. Just called myself out on that one.
Be you, man. Be you.
That's right. But then we wrap up the episode where we see Jake and Billy. They're attending there with Sarge, the rally there at the Southern Sisters, seeing General Walker do his little speech right there at the rally. And as they walk out, they're like, hey, do you want to meet him? And Billy and Jake are like, no, we're going to get out of here. But then Oswald.
It seems, obviously, that Oswald's at that meeting, and he seems like he's energetic at the meeting. And so it's projecting even, all the way up through this that he's anti-Kennedy, just really angry. I was surprised then at the end when he, goes off against the general.
Yeah, because even...
it was a complete 180, and that's how they left it. And obviously, that's the cliffhanger.
That's true, because we see Billy mentioning that, and Jake says, well, we don't know if it's... Maybe George brought him here to deliberately rile him up.
Yeah.
To get him really psyched up to do this or not.
Yeah, and so you're building that of once again, this is who he is. He's this angry guy. He's defected. He comes back. Clearly, he has these hate issues, and he's going to, snap and react. And then you have this where he almost reacts the opposite way and, calls him a fascist and says, I saw this over in Germany. We can't do this. We can't divide each other like this. And was like, who are you?
Yeah.
Who is this?
He really goes after Walker, and he's got all the police kind of keeping him at bay.
Yeah.
But as this whole thing's going on, you keep cutting over to George, who's just casually smoking a cigarette, not doing anything to try to stop Lee Harvey Oswald. He's just letting it all go down.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just, in that sense, I could understand how Jake was like, maybe he's trying to rile him up. He's just going to let him go, get him really worked up about this, and see where that takes him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like as the end of the episode ends, he throws a bottle at Walker, and then he says he's a fascist, and that Oswald has something to say too, and that he's going to kill him. So and that's where I was, and then all of a sudden we went to credits, and I was like, that's it. That's where we're going. I was like, oh man, all right, you had me, you got me on the edge of my seat here. 11/22/63.
Something that I really love about the show, and you have the Hulu and you have the Netflix binge. I'm really glad that this is only one episode a week.
You like that week waiting time to kind of like think
and
about
I
it?
enjoy the fact that it's not like I have to watch it on Monday at 5 o'clock or at 7 o'clock or at 8 o'clock. That I can watch it anytime Monday, sit down, whenever I get off work and just go watch it, and it's waiting. But you still have the periods like now where it's like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of interesting because you do have the choice to find out what happens if you chose. You could buy the book and read that.
Yes.
And really jump ahead and find that out. So, I mean, it'd be interesting maybe if there wasn't a novel and it was just some series, maybe it'd be more frustrating to have that week wait. But I guess there's avenues like, I don't want to wait. I just want to know.
Do you
exactly
like
what
the
happens.
binge?
I have to admit, I'm liking this because there's so much to watch. Like I'm still so far behind, like on Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Arrested Development, all these things that have been on Netflix, and I haven't had a chance to watch any of them.
It keeps people too, concise if they're on the same page, and it's not like someone is like starting out and the other person's already 7 episodes in, and I'm way too far behind and can't even catch up.
Yeah. No, this feels like it's, for the most part, we're all pretty much on the same pace.
Yeah.
Right there. We're all kind of following along the same conversation, like all of you folks at home.
Exactly.
There you go. So we've got a couple minutes here. We're going to wrap it up with a couple of predictions about what lay in store for Jake
your
Billy.
AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
All right. So, Michael, where do you think?
I am making the very clever prediction that Jake and Sadie will grow closer together.
You went out on a limb there. Michael, man, that is a left field prediction.
Now, secretly prediction is what I'm hoping is that something happens to Billy. I'm hoping Billy gets taken out, or that something. You know what? But he's in all 8 episodes, so.
Is he?
I looked at IMDb.
Oh man,
I feel like that's not cheating. It's like looking how many episodes people are on IMDb. He's in all 8.
Interesting, because I feel like they made such a big thing about don't make attachments to people that I feel like it should pay off in some sort of fashion. Maybe early to kind of let you know the stakes. I feel like you tease it up, set it up early to know what the stakes are, so that way by the end of it, when he's really got to make a decision, like say with Sadie's life, then you understand like, wow, yeah, the stakes are really high for this.
Yeah.
So, but now knowing that Billy could make it all the way through the 8 episodes, and that changes that, I'm wondering how they're gonna handle, or maybe that's not a story point they're really gonna address up front. They're just gonna wait till the end and try to see if they can.
I'm interested in something we talked about, to see how time will try to guide them. Like with Sadie coming in, I really feel that's time guiding and trying to push in one direction, not necessarily pushing back, but steering maybe.
Do you feel like that time is using this as it's time pushing, but all in a way to distract him? Keep getting him together with Sadie, get him really invested in that relationship.
Yeah.
And it takes him away from focusing on the JFK
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So time is kind of, it's working. It's like getting it's cake and eat it too, proverbially. Right, time? You getting your...
Yeah. It's making him seem like he's in control. But
he's not.
In reality, he's not.
Yeah, and we still have these hobo guy lurking around who does know. What it seems to be that he knows that Jake doesn't belong in that time period. So I think we're gonna find out some backstory about what this rabbit hole is, who this person is that can just pop up anywhere.
Is there someone else who's time traveling?
That's right.
Look what you did to me.
Yes, James. Thanks. Now,
My prediction is at some point we're gonna have a situation like in Back to the Future where Marty McFly sings Johnny Be Good, like something like that, where he like does something that's so out of the realm that everyone's like, what is he doing? Like,
Yeah.
but to him it's like completely normal,
like that's why I wouldn't. Yeah, you wouldn't.
like taking a selfie or something like that. Like they're gonna be like everyone grouped together for a picture, and he's gonna be like, no, give me that, and he's gonna take a selfie or something.
This is easy. We can all get in.
Oh, all right. Look at that. He's changing the course of history there. Selfies
What do you got?
are prevalent.
Predictions.
For me, I feel like this hobo character, I think we're going to have to start seeing what the ramifications are, who time is maybe put in place. And it seems like this hobo man could be an agent of time itself or some kind of connected with that is trying to do that. Because if he can show up anywhere so far geographically, he's got to be.
It doesn't exactly say when we leave off in 62. There's no specific date, I don't think, in 62.
Well, we know the assassination happened 6 months before the Kennedy one, right? So that was still 63 that assassination would happen.
It would have been spring of 63.
Yes.
And so when it fast forwards, that's the one thing I was wondering is that it doesn't exactly say when it leaves off. So I'm trying to gauge how much time we have left, how many episodes, 8 episodes. So we have 5 episodes left. Looking at time-wise, it's at least a year.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think the dance, but they don't really say whether it's a spring or fall dance. I mean, most dances are in the spring, right?
I mean, I feel like you got to know that that Lee Harvey did not try to kill Walker. Because if he thought, then he would just kill Oswald and then we'd be done. So I feel like you're going to find out that Oswald did not kill Walker. So that way it's still in play for the Kennedy assassination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, because even they talk about, so why don't you just kill him right now? And as Jake was saying, we got to know for sure.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just taking an innocent life and you're not preventing.
Yeah. And I'm still curious to see if we're going to get any sort of time pushback along with the murder that he did last week with Frank. So far, I feel like time is not going to let that go that easily, is it? I don't know.
Could he have a murder warrant out for his arrest and works his way to Dallas?
Oh,
who knows? Then he's wanted.
That's true.
And then he's really having to lay low.
And then he sings Wanted by John Bon Jovi and blows everybody. Is that the song that he sings, James?
Why not?
There's your prediction.
There you go. That's going to do it for us here on 11/22/63. Michael, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at @TheOnlyMC, on Twitter at @MichaelClousTV. Reach out. Love to hear from you.
That's right. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. Let's continue the conversation there. Follow us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. Give us 5 stars on iTunes. There's a lot of great shows that we do here at AfterBuzz, not just 11/22/63, but so many more.
Absolutely.
So, join us on all of them. Join us individually. Join us together. We'll be back here next week with the rest of our panel for episode 4 of 11/22/63.
Can't wait.
We'll see you then.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.